Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are, guys. Welcome to episode 4 of Flex in the City.
How's it going?
It's good. It's good. Had a good week. Have been not running away from the gym for the past 2 weeks, so that's very good. We're in week 2,
Bravo.
so I'm feeling very accomplished. And I'll tell you a little story about that later. How are you doing?
I'm good. Had a good week too. For those of you that are new here, I'm Rada. This is my
host sorry, I'm Lisa.
And longtime friend, Lisa.
If you're starting on episode 4, which you shouldn't do, but if you are, yes.
Hit the subscribe button so that you can keep up with us every time we post a new episode. We try to post one, or we do post one every Friday.
Every Friday. That's Friday.
So, Flex Friday.
So yeah, I think we will, on that note, jump right into it. For those, again, who are new here, we have a little fire round that we have taken to starting each episode with. So I ask, we switch. So this week is my turn to ask Gada, what would she rather out of a list of 10 questions? And this should be very interesting. You have to answer as fast as you can.
I'm so bad at
last time.
Okay.
Which is create a multiple choice question.
Yeah.
And yeah,
let's see how many times I do that this time around.
That will be it. And then the question will be, would I rather not ask these questions anymore? All right, ready. Would you rather have an incredibly annoying high-pitched voice or a really deep manly voice?
Really deep manly voice.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because no one's gonna think that you're like a drag queen because you're tiny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You could get away with it. So, fair enough. Would you rather have a full-blown mustache for a year, full-blown, or permanently hairy armpits for 10 years?
Like I can't shave them?
As in, you shave them and it grows right back anyway. It doesn't matter.
I'd rather
for 10 years. Like hanging out.
But I can get rid of the mustache.
No.
Oh my god! Give me the armpit hair. I don't know. It's like and ladies are walking around like
Yeah, with all of it hanging out.
With all of it, so it's like the trend right now. So I would be.
Is it the trend? Where is it the trend?
I see it all the time.
Where are you seeing it?
I've seen it here.
I saw it like
in
footage of the 60s.
No, I've seen it, and like I've even seen it on
certain like
the river reels, like Instagram reels. Like ladies are posting themselves.
Oh, natural.
And on the train, I'll see like full on hair on.
I've seen that too. The leg hair.
So
I've seen the leg hair. Which, in fact, the original question was leg hair, but I was like, I will take it up a notch and make it armpit hair because leg hair, at least generally, is easier to cover up. And I think it can blend in much easier than like.
Well, I mean, is the armpit hair like hanging out of my shirt?
Yes, that is the question.
Oh, you didn't.
That's what I'm asking. So it's going to be turtlenecks through the summer and long sleeves.
I'll still take the armpit hair
for 10 years.
I'll still take the armpit hair. Wow. Next.
Okay. Actually, yeah, I would too. Because you can still cover it up. You can't cover your face.
What am I gonna like? What? I don't know.
Unless it was the pandemic again, you're not hiding the mustache.
Yeah, exactly.
So. All right, fair. Would you rather give up your phone or only wear Crocs for the rest of your life?
Crocs. Give me the Crocs.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
I can make them look sexy.
Exactly.
And they have these little pins now that you like can put in. And
I've seen all of that. Trying to like bedazzle the Crocs. It doesn't help. Because you're bedazzling it with Croc stuff. It's more crockery.
More crockery. I love that.
Oh my god. This one was good. Would you rather clog the toilet on a first date or on the first day at a new job?
First date. Because the new job, I'm gonna go back. Like
so if you clog the toilet on the first date,
that's it. We're done.
It's the last date.
You're never gonna see me again, unless you're into that shit. But I
even if you are literally into that shit, if you are into that shit, I'm definitely not coming back.
But like, yeah. Employees are gonna see you again the next day. You can't avoid that.
Yeah, that's true. And you spend like 8 hours. Yeah, and it's your first day, so that's your first impression.
Yeah.
For everyone that you work with, and that's basically how your nickname is gonna come about.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. I see that you're thinking it through. I like that.
Yeah.
Would you rather have an abnormally big toe or an abnormally big ear?
Big toe.
Yes. Would you rather be 3 feet tall or 8 feet tall? 3 feet tall.
Give me the 8 feet tall.
I would totally say 3 feet.
But you're tall and I'm short, so like I've always wondered what
But
it's
you're
like.
closer to 3 feet than 8 feet.
And I already know what it's like to be so short.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be a big change in your life.
I don't know.
Also, when you're 3 feet tall, you can get away in a crowd without being seen, without standing out. 8 feet tall, everyone's seeing you coming.
Trample on everyone though.
Okay, but you're not going to be in the middle of a crowd. Remember the other week you said you're going to be at
It's
the edge of the crowd.
It's true. I can't do that. I can't do that as an 8 feet tall.
Oh my gosh! All right. Would you rather be a mad genius or super popular but dumb? And mad genius, I mean like genius, but like, like in the cartoons, how you have like those crazy scientists that create things and they're super.
Am I an evil genius?
No, you don't have to be evil.
Okay, I would want to be a mad.
That's a good question, actually.
I'd want to be a mad genius. Because even in the cartoons, they always had like their little entourage. So I wouldn't be an antisocial. You
would have your people. You'd have followers. Absolutely.
I would have my followers.
You'd have your little.
So I'd rather have the brain.
Yeah, true.
Than be popular and dumb.
I mean, one could argue that you are popular because if you're the brain, you have your minions around you. You still have, Yeah, okay, all right. Would you rather a nose that never stops growing or ears that never stop growing? Don't our noses like
ears
grow
and nose,
until we
ears
die?
and nose, they don't stop growing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Ears too.
Yeah. So give me the ears. If
okay.
my nose.
So let's make it exponentially growing then. So not normal, because if that's happening already, then it's not a question.
But I can just like cover them with my.
You can. Yeah,
my nose, but I can't walk around like this all day. Imagine. Okay?
And then it's bigger every day. But your hair is going to be like this at one point.
Okay.
Because your ears.
I got it. I'll make it work.
Good. All right. Well, that's the last one for today. So
I think
on that note, you did good. You did better. Okay. I need to get better actually at making the questions faster as well. But yeah, that was good. So welcome, guys. Welcome to episode 4, as we said earlier. And I think we're going to jump right into it.
Yes.
What are we discussing today?
Today, we want to talk about this idea of being an outsider. And what does that mean? And the different definitions or the different scenarios that we've been in and maybe you've been in as well that make you feel like an outsider. So
Yeah. I probably would preface that by saying, so we discussed it, I think, on episode 1, where we said we both obviously met overseas in the U.S. during university, but our lives took us by roundabout travels and life and experiences, and we both have ended up several years later here, actually decades later.
Yeah.
2 decades later here. By chance, both in Munich and with our
random crazy miracle.
So random. Such a random place too.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And just our experiences on having been outside of Munich and Germany and Europe for the majority of our lives, and then moving here and having families here and bringing up kids here has been the crux of so many discussions and venting sessions, mostly for me. And
because I've been here 5 years now.
Yeah, you're a veteran now.
So I've had my moments.
Yeah, I think
you're
my touchstone of advice. Yeah, and you're like, just hold on through. It gets better. Just write it out.
Promise it gets better.
Yeah. So, and she's right. So far, it has gotten a little bit better, which I will tell you a little bit about some of my experiences over the past week.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's sort of the preface or the premise of the topic, and we wanted to talk about not only feeling like outsiders culturally, but I think outsiders maybe from situations where you view, um, you know, methods of upbringing differently, and it might not be cultural differences for upbringing, but just your personal ideas for how you want things to be, or your kids to be, or your relationship with your family generally to be, as well as outsiders in various other ways. So I think that's going to be the focus of the episode today. So,
What's your earliest memory of feeling like an outsider?
oh my gosh, it's vivid. It's when I first went to boarding school. So, born and raised in Kenya, but at the age of 9 was moved to a boarding school, an American missionary boarding school in Kenya that was at the time, it's a little bit more integrated now, but still the majority of the students are white Americans. And so it was like this bubble of US in the middle of like the valley in Kenya. And at the time, I think when I went there, I was starting fourth grade, and it was me and I think only two other Black students in our class. And it pretty much stayed about that for the duration of the time there. So I was there for 9 years, but I very clearly remember what it felt like when I first went there, because I come from Kenyan school where obviously all my friends looked like me. We had a strong Kenyan culture where we celebrated so much about ourselves, and I was really involved in a lot of sports, and I was a little Girl Scout brownie, so I did that. I had my little troop, and we went on camping trips. So I was just fully immersed in that way of life. Didn't really know that there was a way of life outside of that. Moved over to this school, and like, you know, became teased for my last name. I think you spoke about this a little bit last week. Um, Teased for my accent, which was one of the hardest things to overcome, because not only did no one understand me, but when I spoke, it was always like a platform to be teased. So you didn't want to even speak. So as someone who was already quite social, I had to change my character because it was a way to protect myself from further, ridicule. And then in the same token, I didn't understand my teachers, because I was like, what did she just say? They had these strong Canadian and American accents. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And then, Americans call everything something different. And Kenyan schooling was sort of British system based. So, I was going from metric system and, spelling everything RE to a totally different way of learning as well as interacting. So for me, that was like running into a brick wall of that feeling of being an outsider. That was quite confronting. And so I remember it quite vividly. How about you?
I think I touched on it before, but for the new listeners, definitely growing up in New York. So I'm originally Palestinian. Parents were both born in Palestine, and they ended up in the US at some point. And I was born and raised in New York, and so I was just always kind of in the little town that we lived in. We didn't live in the city. Like, it wasn't like a glamorous, kind of.
People forget.
When people hear New York, they're like, oh, I was like, okay, I was born in Manhattan, but I did not grow up there.
And it's a huge state.
Yeah, and it's huge. Okay, we were 40 minutes outside of Manhattan, but still, I did not grow up in Manhattan. And so I really was, like, my family was the only Arab family in our area.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was maybe one or two other families, but they either didn't have kids or their kids were older. So it's not like anyone that we could relate to. In my school, I really was the only Arab. There was one other, maybe Muslim family, but I'm not sure. I know there was one family that was Indian. They were Sikhs. So my mom, like, that girl and I were, like, the girl that I met in school, like, we were really good friends, and my mom obviously connected with her mom, because there was like a level of understanding between the families. But otherwise, I always felt like the oddball out, like, really just a weird name.
It's hard too, because you literally were the only one.
Yeah, I was the only one, and really couldn't relate to anybody. And at the same time, it's not like my mom and dad were pretending not to be Arab, like, they did not, there's some generations that when they move to the
They completely
US, they
assimilate.
assimilate and they really want to kind of be one. But my parents were like, no, we're still Arab, we're still Muslim. Like, you still have to, you know, there's certain ways to, like, culturally, you know. And that was for me. I just couldn't, like, I wanted to be like all the other white girls. Like, I wanted to have the blonde hair and the blue eyes and the and I wanted to be able to wear the really short shorts and you know, and I couldn't do any of that.
Yeah.
Our house was the only house during Christmas
that didn't have anything on it.
nothing. Like, all, like, people, like, and we used to drive around town just to look at the lights. My dad would take us to various, like,
that's fun too.
Cities, like little towns, neighboring towns, and we'd drive around and you'd see, like, house after house after house.
They go all out.
And then we'd drive home and we'd go up the hill. I remember it was a major hill that we'd have to drive up, and all the lights, and then you get to ours and it's like pitch black. It's like, you know, like,
we're home.
It's like, we're home, you know. So that was like, that for me was, I really did not, and I hate saying that now, but at the time I did not like being Arab. I was not a fan of it. Like, if there was any way for me to be as white as I could, I tried. Okay, my skin is white, but culturally, I was not one of them. You know? Yeah. And I even remember in university, I would get there, like, this was at UConn, and people would come up to me and be like, we know you're not white. We can't figure out what you are, but you're not one of us. And I'd be like,
there's something different about you.
There's something different about you. You know, but we can't put our finger on it. I'd be like,
you have rhythm. That's what's different about you.
You know? And then in Jordan, we eventually moved to Jordan because my dad worked for the UN and we got stationed there. And in Jordan, I wasn't Arab enough. Like, that was the crazy part.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I always felt like the Arabs there, because I went to an American school, so you had a whole mix. You had locals that were going to that school, and then you had a bunch of expats. And the locals and I were not friends. Like, we didn't hate each other, but, like, we were friendly to each other, but I wasn't the person that they would call when they wanted to hang out.
Right.
They had their own little clique. It was like all these Arabs that knew each other and maybe were on the same status level as well.
I was going to say, status is always a big thing.
And then you had me that kind of, like, was an expat, but I was also Arab, and then, you know.
Yeah.
So it's always been like this outsider. And I think for a really long time, I would put this label on me that I'm an outsider. And that's why it's so hard for me to make friends. And this is just something that's part of my reality. But it's not until I got here that I started not giving a shit.
Really?
Yeah.
So that...
I don't know what it is
I
about
don't want to
Munich.
say late in life.
But here specifically, they don't want to... Apparently, it's like taboo for people to ask you where you're from. Like, from what I've heard from other Germans...
Yeah, it is.
If you ask them,
it's
hey,
taboo
like,
for
where's
them to ask you anything.
It's taboo to ask you.
Now.
And I just thought, was like, no, like, I want you to ask me.
Because I want to tell you.
I want to tell you my story.
Yeah.
I want to tell you my history. I want to tell you where I ended up. And especially that I'm Palestinian and I'm proud to be Palestinian. Like, I 100%. Want you to ask me and I want you to know.
100%.
And so it's like, now I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, you don't
ask me,
I'm going to tell you anyway.
You'll be buying a croissant, you'll be like, by the way,
I'm Palestinian. Notice the watermelon?
That's
Palestinian.
You're welcome.
There's even, it's so cheesy, but really there's this song that came out. I don't even know who the artist is, but she is someone who was half Japanese, half American. And she created a song. She grew up in the US, mother's Japanese. And so she created this song that says, I'm sorry, Tokyo. She's basically walking through her experience growing up in the US and saying how she wanted to sound like the white girls. She'd even make fun of herself before anybody else would just to like, you know, beat them to the punchline. Like, oh, like
yeah.
I already know what you're thinking.
But also somehow to secure yourself like
Yeah.
a passport into their
Exactly.
their group. Like, yeah, I'm also like you. I also don't like when people.
Yeah. And so, and then the like the main chorus line is like, "I'm sorry, Tokyo. Like, will you still accept me?" And I'm just like, "I'm sorry." I sing it. I'm like, "I'm sorry, Palestine." It does not work with Palestine. Like it needs.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
It's a hard one.
It's like Valentine is the only rhyme for it.
Yeah. So it doesn't work. But like I hear that song and like I literally bawl myself and like just
like,
wish that I could hug the inner child and just tell her like, "Hey,
singing my life."
Yeah. Sing it, girl. You know?
Oh man, no, yeah, like I totally know what that feels like because you're so inundated, not only by your immediate environment and growing up, of course, that's school.
Yeah.
And you spend most of your day there. We lived there, and we were surrounded by people who were like, "How you talk is wrong." And it was weird because, like I say, I call it a bubble because it was in our own country. But when we were there, it didn't feel like we were Kenyans. We were in the States, essentially. And I remember even our dorm parents would sort of, we'd get to points, and I think a lot of other Kenyan students can probably say the same thing about being there. They would basically gaslight us and be like, you know, you're being hyper reactive to feeling like, you know, someone said something offensive, you just have to let it go. Like, so that's what we were told. For me, being there 9 years, we were told over and over again, you're the one who's being hypersensitive. And you shouldn't talk about race all the time because it makes people feel uncomfortable. So it makes them feel uncomfortable to explain that I'm uncomfortable. So that was kind of like indoctrinated completely. And then I remember we had a dorm mom once, and it's similar to you. I went through this period where I was like, okay, like at least now I have the accent, I can like pass. And that was, I still remember, it was like 5th grade. And I remember when I came home for vacation and I was talking to my parents, like, we can't really understand what the hell you're saying
like
anymore.
that?
And I was like, yes, I've crossed over. Like I felt it was such a huge accomplishment. And that's awful. And then, you know, it was dressing a certain way, it was having the right brands, it was liking the same things that they liked. It was knowing all of the American brands, you know, when they would refer to McDonald's, which I didn't even like see or taste or go near, thank God, till you know, like college.
Yeah.
And it was having familiarity with their shows and finding identity through the things that they had identity in. And the hardest part of that is, which is still there now, but even more so back then, was that there was no representation for people of color back then. I can count on one hand exactly how many shows we had growing up that had Black people in them. And, you know, of course, like The Cosby and Family Matters and Living Single, which we weren't allowed to watch, but I used to sneak and watch with my sister.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch that either.
Yeah, it's so good, by the way. Scandalous. I just watched it again like a few months ago, and I was like, this show is so ahead of its time. But, you know, like there were just really few places we could be represented. And so it was a confirmation again that not only is how I talk wrong, not only is my name wrong, not only is all of this wrong, how I look is wrong too. Because, you know, now they're telling me, they're dictating to me that the closer I am to them, the better I am. So it took me a while as well to get to the point where I was defiant in my identity and defiant in the things that made me different, to the point where, like I want the opportunity to be confronted. Yeah. And I even want the opportunities to make you uncomfortable about how this is not how the status quo should be. So it became a bit aggressive for a while, but now it's come to a place where I think it's really quite balanced. And it's just, you know, I don't give a shit. This is who I am, this is how I look, this is what I like, this is how we talk, and I'm almost the same way that you spoke about that song. Like I lament the fact that I wish I had embraced more of my culture. I wish I had, you know, spoken more Swahili and learned to fully grasp and master the language so I could also teach it to my kids perfectly. I wish that I could have, been more immersed in life with my Kenyan friends who I only saw every 3 months, and but yeah, it is what it is.
It's a bunch of shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Mm.
And a lot of it does also go back to maybe our parents. Not that I want to play the blame game at all.
The Freud game.
They did what they did what they did. They did the best that they could in the scenarios that they were given.
The best they could with what they had.
With what they had, I think I've mentioned that we only spoke English at home because my dad really wanted my mom to learn the language. And at some point, it just kind of became second nature to us. So, like, when someone asks me, what's your mother tongue? What's your,
your first language?
And I'm like, I always have to say, it should be Arabic, but it's actually English. And it's sad. For me, it's really sad, but it is just kind of something that I've learned to understand and realize that, okay, now I can at least do something about it. Like, I do make more of an effort I have a couple friends here that are Arabs, and I'll try to make an effort to speak to them, although they've gotten used to speaking to me in English. So they don't. I feel bad. I think they feel like I don't understand them, which I do. Sometimes I'll have to pause because sometimes I literally am translating in my head.
So you hear it in Arabic.
I hear it and I just translate it for me to understand it, and then I'll spit it back in Arabic with some English words thrown in there because that's just how it works.
Yeah.
It's like, sadly, I have a really hard time having a full conversation just completely in Arabic, but I do try, and with my kids at home, of course, we speak only English at home, but
they're learning.
I'm trying. I have them taking a lesson once a week. Okay. I try to use when I'm talking to them, at least for them to hear the sounds.
Even if they don't practice speaking it, they will be able to at least understand it.
And then we go home. We try to go home at least once a year to see my family. So they, when we're there, although my family speaks to me in English, so they're speaking to the kids in English, and I'm just like, no,
it's the flaw in the
we're
plan.
not doing this again. Just please, do what you can. And I see my sister, my youngest sister, and my brother, both married partners that are very fluent in Arabic. Their kids are growing up only speaking Arabic and are picking up the English now. But they've so they're doing it. So I'm like, I know it's possible.
It's definitely.
But my partner, I love you to death. He ended up in the U.S. at some point, and he's half German also. He lived in the U.S. for 10-something years. So for him also, English is
his first.
Is very comfortable for him.
Does he speak fluent German?
He does speak it, but his vocabulary is limited.
Okay.
It is limited. And he even says it has an accent. I can't pick it up, obviously, but I'm sure if you're if Michael talked to him, you would hear a slight accent, But I think it just so now it's just really trying to accept it, but do something about it instead of complaining that
we didn't, and then
which is what we did growing up. We always you would hear more of the complaints, but now it's no, we're older now. Now we can do something about it. So if I really want to learn Arabic, I can get.
Oh, absolutely, you can. And I think you've had the foundation, so it wouldn't be hard.
I wouldn't be starting from zero.
Yeah. Can you write it?
It's like a child's handwriting.
Right? Can you read it?
I can read it.
Read it.
It takes me a bit of time, but I can read it.
Okay.
But if it's the Arabic that's in a newspaper, which is proper, that for me is Chinese. I can't. There's no way. I really can't. It's a completely different.
I feel the same way when I see snippets of because I watch the news from back home sometimes. And I see snippets of the Swahili news, because they have two sets of news. So they have evening news, 7 p.m. news, and then they have the 9 p.m. 9 p.m. is in English, the 7 p.m. is in Swahili, and it's in Sanifu, which is the proper, really grammatically correct Swahili. But anyway, that 7 p.m. news and a lot of the snippets that I get for news, especially now with everything that's happening in Kenya, I'm trying to keep up. And whenever I click on a clip, I'm like, please, just let it be And as soon as they start, or I see like the little headline and it's in Swahili, I'm like, I'm not gonna know what's going on.
Damn.
I literally look. They have a sign language interpreter in
Yeah.
the corner of the screen.
Trying to pay attention to
I look at the interpreter
Give me
because I'm
something.
like, I think they're talking about. Okay, so someone was arrested,
Mhm.
and then what happened?
Oh my God.
It's bad, and then it's even gotten to the point sometimes where I Google Translate because I'm like, it was bad when Dante was doing his like grade 1, grade 2. Okay, grade 1 I could kind of get past, but grade 2, grade 3
Forget it.
Swahili homework, I would have my phone like down here, and I'd be like
Google
translating the question, not even like the actual question he's been asked, but like the directions for what to do. I'd be like, he'd be like, what does this mean? I'd be like, so it means write everything in. It was that bad, and I had this moment where I was like, I have failed. I failed myself and my kids. It's bad.
No.
A funny thing we did in high school, now that I was just thinking about it, was when we were graduating in 12th grade, most people were going overseas to university, most people to the States. So they were like, oh, we want to make sure you guys are properly integrated because you're going into the secular world and you have to be protected and, stick to your guns and, know what kind of sinful things you're going to face and stick to whoever you know that you are now. So they made us write a whole bunch of things, but one of the ones they made us write was the TCK experience, which is what they call the third culture kid experience, because most of the students were American kids, some of whom had grown up in Kenya or around Kenya or even other parts of Africa, and really actually couldn't relate back to American culture because they hadn't been there for years, or if they went, it was only for a furlough, a short holiday. So they really actually would find themselves, some of them would say, being more Kenyan.
Oh.
Okay. In their mind, in their
Okay.
estimation. And I remember that was in my defiance era. I was like, I'm gonna write this assignment, but this is not my experience.
Okay.
I am Kenyan. I celebrate Kenyan culture. I live and have grown up in Kenya. I don't have a third culture.
Right.
This is who I am. I don't have issues of identity. And so that was basically.
So you didn't feel like you had identity issues at that age?
Because I was like, I'm not like y'all. I was like, I grew up in my own country. I know who I am.
True.
Yeah, and I'm rejecting everything I'm not.
Okay.
So that was the essence of my assignment. Needless to say, I gotta like see me after class.
Does not
to explain
fit
further.
the criteria.
Yeah, so I don't think you understood the assignment, Lisa. Oh no, I understood it. I just don't think you understand my experience.
Yeah.
So I stuck to my guns actually, and our English teacher at the time was like, "All right, I see where you're coming from." But yeah, like and then it's when I went to the States, and because I had been at this American school for so long, I was more assimilated than a lot of the newer Kenyan kids. And I would see other African international students struggling the way I remembered that felt like back in the fourth grade when I first went. And I was like, oh, thank God it ain't me.
You've already been through it.
I've been through it. I know how
you
to
were prepared, like you'd already been mentally
prepared.
prepared.
Oh yeah, exactly. I was like, I know and then I felt really well equipped. And then there was always this question of, well, how come you sound American? How come you talk like that? Like, you grew up in Kenya, you're African, how come you talk like that? And then I had to go through this whole explanation about the fact that I went to school and blah, blah, and it started building this new, like, question mark in my mind now where I was like,
where do I
fit
in?
Exactly. And then this whole TCK freaking essay came back to bite me in the ass because I was like, I am this, as much as I want to reject it, marriage of these different cultures that have influenced me. I have this parasitic accent that no matter where I've lived, It doesn't go nowhere. It's like a tapeworm. I can't get rid of it.
I know. I've tried to like enunciate.
I
But
try.
It just doesn't.
It's gotten
still,
a bit better. Like
Yeah.
I say T's a bit stronger, but like I lived in Australia 3 times as long as I lived in America.
I need to pick up the Aussie accent.
That is not it, by the way.
My husband says I do a horrible Aussie accent.
Everybody does.
Please
It's
forgive
one of
me.
the hardest
Anyone
ones.
listening in Australia, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Really?
they're used to people butchering
Oh
their
my
accent.
God, I can't do it. I've tried.
I can't. I live there
I know
and I can't
there's-
do it. I
there's
can
like
hear
a-
it. I can be like, oh, that's person from Queensland. I can hear the difference between, New Zealand and Australia. Like I can hear it really well. I can be like, oh, that's a country accent. But ask me to do it. I can't.
Say rise up lights.
What? Is that a thing?
Say rise up lights really fast.
No, now I'm scared. Wait, in an Aussie accent?
No, just say it. Rise up lights.
Rise of lights.
Doesn't it sound like razor blades?
Rise of lights. Oh my
That goes-
God.
That's for my husband.
That is how they say it.
Rise up lights.
Razor blades. Right? Yeah.
I'm
I'm saying it like that. Yeah. Yeah, wow. Okay.
Oh my God. It's okay.
That was
People
a
butcher
life-changing
the
moment.
American accent all the time, so
To be fair though, there's like 1 billion American accents.
there are.
There's the one that they use like on the news that's like the Midwest sort of like,
Yeah.
but then you have New York, and New York has different accents too.
Mhm.
And then you have like Southern accents, and you have Florida accents.
Oh my
Do you
God.
remember people that we went to school with from Florida who couldn't understand what the fuck was that? Like, I'm like,
But I
I
can
couldn't
tell you,
understand what they're saying.
I went to North Carolina freshman year before I moved up to Yukon,
Uh-huh.
and I remember being on the phone with my dad once. Oh my God, I'm crying so much. Being on the phone with my dad once, and I had picked up such a heavy country accent. Like you cannot not pick up a country accent.
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Why do you sound like that?" He just could not
No,
understand
you talking
anything.
like this a
Look,
little
talking
bit.
like this. Hey y'all.
Oh yeah, y'all. Y'all is really hard to get rid
You
of.
can't get rid of. And I've been saying y'all since the 8th grade because in Jordan there was a girl that was there from like through the embassy.
Yeah.
She was from Georgia, and she'd always say, "Put your balls to the walls, y'all." And it was just like, just that y'all just
You
stuck
held
around.
on to the
I
y'all.
held on to the y'all. Like
Oh my
like,
god.
bunch
Yeah,
of-
y'all
a
is
bunch of
pretty
kids walking
aggressive.
around in Jordan saying y'all.
Y'all.
It was so random, but
Oh my god. Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's insane. It's crazy that like there's just this full circle moment where, and it was the same thing when I went to Australia. People were like, oh, but you're from Kenya, but you sound
It's not
American.
American, but
I'm
you're
like,
not from
listen,
yeah.
I've been just around the world.
Yeah.
And so now it's like this a mass of different influences and cultures, and like there's so much of Australian culture as well that's like part of not the accent, but how I speak as
Yeah.
well now, because I was saying heaps the other day, and Dante was like, what do you mean heaps? You say a lot. I'm like, yeah, that is. And kitchen bench. I remember when I first moved to Australia, people were like, yeah, put it on the kitchen bench. I was like, I don't see a bench anywhere. And they're like, the kitchen bench.
Is a
That's
table?
the counter.
A counter.
The counter is the bench.
Oh wow.
So I'm looking for a bench to sit
Yeah.
on. And then I realized now I say that, which
Look at you.
I don't like. But yeah. So it's crazy how we become this amalgamation
Fusion.
of like, yeah. And so it makes me think, all right, especially when we live in a world where people are becoming more and more mixed and biracial and multiracial and ambiguous ethnicities, like how is it conducive for us to hold on to one culture, or to embrace whatever influences come in and sort of make that a part of who we are and our families and how we bring people up? Because like, for example, in our household we have 4 languages between Michael and I.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally 5 if I really spoke my tribal language, but I really don't. I'm sorry, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. We tried, but 4 languages really that we want our kids to grow up speaking. And now we have a baby, a toddler, who counts from 1 to 10 in 3 different languages.
Oh.
But he gets the difference between, like German word for the same item and Swahili or English.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're doing and giving him that exposure. But ultimately, of course, one will sort of rise as the more dominant. And does that mean that, like, for example, his German is probably going to be his first language, but does that mean that, like, it's suppressing his African culture and his Kenyan heritage? Or do I have to sort of be more heavy-handed with that? Or, because you have this pressure that you have to.
Is it a pressure?
I feel it's self-imposed. I feel that it's because it's also something that's so unique, and it's something that I've mostly in my older age learned to appreciate the depth and the beauty and the diversity of. I'm like, I want my kids to do that, to have that.
Yeah.
So I feel that pressure a bit because I'm like, I don't know my languages well enough to impart that knowledge, but I still want them to have it because it's important for them to have identity on both sides. But it's crazy. Like, are they just going to be this sort of third, fourth culture kids and become a marriage of everything?
I think it is that. It's going to be a marriage of everything. It is this, like I said, fusion of these different cultures, and it's coming together, and it's kind of forming like this unique culture where, one day your kids will feel very, very Kenyan and very proud, and then another day they'll feel very German and very, and connect with that.
Right.
And I think it is okay for them to embrace both.
Yeah.
And that's the key, is for them to embrace and love and appreciate. Whereas maybe for you and me, like I know for me, I was at a tug of war, like internally with my roots, and I did not appreciate and I did not embrace them, and I did not, care for them. And
I think when you're in an environment that tells you there's something wrong with it, it's hard.
Yeah, you want to, like,
to
tuck it, like, to push it away and just kind of like
minimize it.
Minimize it as much as, and blend in with the scenery as much as possible. But I think because we've had these experiences, like, we are gonna really teach our kids that you need to embrace and should want to embrace all of it. Just kind of like give them the opposite experience of what we had.
Yeah. That's I think what I'm feeling. I guess when I say pressure, probably the incorrect term.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm feeling.
I look at it as more like a responsibility.
Yes.
Like, we don't want them to lose that, and I tell them all the time, because the kids are obviously a quarter German.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I feel like they think they're more German. I'm like, no, you're more Arab than you are German. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you don't recognize your German roots, but I want you also to, because we're living in Germany, like, you still need to understand, where you come from both sides. And because they are here, our kids are here, they're going to be more exposed to that side. So we have a responsibility to really instill the Arab, the Kenyan roots in them so that they really understand that. Because also, ultimately, every time they're going home to visit family, they are then the outsiders.
Yeah. That's it.
And I don't wish that for them. Like, I want them to feel like, no, they know enough about it
that they can at least feel comfortable when they go back home and actually enjoy it, not dread it. Because I also have this feeling that as the world changes, our cultures are inevitably getting diluted. We're losing so much from one generation to the next, and I'm like, pretty soon, like, my great grandkids probably wouldn't know anything about what their language sounds like, and that's difficult because I'm just like, wow, that's such a big part. That's literally it was my parents' generation's entire world. They didn't know anything else, and then only 3-4 generations later, it's non-existent, which is hard because we have such diverse and rich identities that you want to preserve that. And this reminds me of. All right, so spoiler alert. So I literally just thought about this right now. Did you watch that Man with 1,000 Kids? Netflix?
No, not yet. I've seen in the
listen.
Just that it pops up. I
Watch
haven't
it
even
tonight.
seen the trailer yet.
I didn't want to watch it either because I was like, the title tells you everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so he fathers a lot of kids. Whatever.
Like a sperm donor?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg, no pun intended.
Okay.
That is just the tip, because the extent and depth of the fuckery is whole operation is so diabolical.
Oh my god.
But I'm gonna give you a spoiler. So spoiler alert, if you guys want to watch it, you haven't watched it, skip ahead about 20 seconds. So basically there's a part where there's this group of guys who are recruited in Kenya to basically be milked for their sperm to inseminate African women.
No.
And there's a company that's like flying them out to, for all expenses paid, go to the beach and we'll just be taking your donations until you reach a donation of about 200, so enough to give to 200 women, then you can go back. Like you're not in prison, but you can be here, you eat for free, you stay by the beach for free, and all you do is basically jerk off until we have enough and you go back home. And one of the guys that was in that, not in the recruitment organization, but is like a donor, was a super donor, as they're called. Basically was like, yeah, our goal is to bleach all of Africa.
You're kidding.
And this is where I said,
oh, that doesn't sit well with me.
this is where I said, I'm so tired of human beings.
Humanity sucks.
Listen, there is no redeeming quality left in us. Absolutely not. I swear. If we didn't have kids here and these innocent children weren't on this planet, I'd be like, Lord, send something down. Just finish us off. Start fresh. Because this
Control Alt Delete.
Literally. Control Alt Delete. Start again. This was a bust. This was a rough draft. It didn't go well. Let's go back to the drawing board and rethink. Because we've lost the plot. I was like flabbergasted. I literally had to pause it, go back and DM my friend who told me to watch this and say, you did it. Because I was watching it in the morning. I was like, I'll just throw this on in the background while I'm cleaning. Nah. I ended up sitting still and transfixed. And I'm like, it changed the whole flavor of my day because I couldn't believe it. Yeah. So this is what's happening. And then I hear something like that and I say, okay, racially, that's what there's people out there trying to do. So culturally, it's so much even more important that we preserve what we have because that is such an important part of our diversity, but also our identity. And that's when I just started thinking about the fact that I was like, this pressure to assimilate, this pressure to, be more like the majority, compounded by people who think like that, who say we just have to keep the diversity out of there and ridicule you for having a culture because they don't. I was like, man, it's a racket.
No wonder it's such a challenge.
Yeah, because it's so systemic and so deliberate. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm only speaking Swahili around the house.
Do it.
To everybody. In fact, outside the house also.
The butcher, the baker, that
that guy who always asks me for change on the corner, I'm going to start responding to him in Swahili. In fact, that might work better. But just saying, I don't have any change. Yeah, I'm just going to start doing that, just relentlessly. Because the impunity that, people have, we're like, nah, your culture is nothing. Like, you know what? That's that same energy. I'm gonna start having that same energy. It's like, mine is everything. That's how I'm rolling through.
I think it's also probably important to find other like-minded. Like you need to find a community that is on the same level.
Of course.
That is.
Community is important for various reasons.
It's not just about maybe at this point finding other Kenyans, but it could be other people like you and me who are kind of living this in-between world. Raising our children in this in-between world. To just kind of because you and me then understand that's one of our pillars is that we want to instill this, that we want to make sure our kids know where they're coming from. Right. We don't want that to be diluted in any shape or form.
Right. And there's a lot of people who I'm sure feel that way as well, that are struggling with how. Yeah. How do I sort of do that whilst at the same time giving them the tools that they need to survive in this environment.
So that's why I feel like because of our experiences, our kids won't have, like, our kids will grow up, and maybe I'm being very positive, but I feel like they will grow up feeling proud and will want to continue.
I hope so.
You know, like it's always the first generation. I mean, for me, in my case, first generation in the US, you know, they're just trying to get by. But it's usually the second generation of those parents that want to get in touch with their culture and their roots and everything.
Agreed.
And so
the first generation has to pave the way. They have to lay the groundwork to be like, listen, we have to make a life for you and a way to achieve that life in an environment that's difficult and new. So that's their focus. But now that they've done that for us, we can stand on their shoulders and be like, all right, we've got the firm footing.
Yeah.
Now we can actually embrace who we are and still excel in this environment that you've allowed us to be a part of.
Exactly.
So I definitely hope that for the kids, very much so.
I'm hoping Gen Z fixes the world.
Listen,
there's a lot of
pressure in Kenya are doing the damn thing.
Yes.
They are. I have never been prouder and at the same time more ashamed at how much of a failure our generation has been.
Right?
Because rightly so, we didn't do shit. We didn't do anything. We just sat by and said, "Oh,
we just coasted." We were like,
well, it is what it is." Yes,
we had the golden years.
We're not happy with the leadership or the way that things are going, but I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Or, and we were raised by a generation of people who literally were like sat on by such a
silence.
Yeah, totalitarian government.
Speak only when spoken to.
Yeah,
kind of,
and we couldn't even speak. Mm-hmm. Like we grew up not being able to even speak about politics in the house. Like that's what I remember. So coming from that to be able to have this generation of kids say, we're fearless and we're not going to be led by y'all losers who've let us down. And I was like, rightly so.
But I'm like, I'm sorry. We're sorry.
We're sorry. And can we
so
also
sorry.
kind of jump on your bandwagon and ride your coattails? Because we are behind you. We are inspired by you.
Yeah.
I think
even with Palestine also in the US, the universities, like it was them. They were the ones making the most noise.
Yeah, and being like, we don't care.
We don't care.
We can sit here and threaten our futures and our careers, and we're still going to stand up for something that's right.
Wow.
Amazing. I don't know, but I'm grateful for whatever it is that we somehow managed to impart to our kids to be stronger than we are. But that is the essence of parenting, I think, as well, is, your kids, we say that whole shoulder, standing on shoulders metaphor is, you raise your kids to be able to stand on your shoulders so they can see further than you can see.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And I think Gen Z have come.
Can you say that in Swahili? No?
I'm not going to say it on here. Okay. I can say it in my Swahili, but it's not going to be the one that, like they speak on the news. And I'm not going to do it because I will be clowned off of this channel entirely.
No.
Yes, I will be. That's part of that whole third culture thing experience too, because when I'm around Kenyans, I get clowned for not sounding Kenyan enough.
Yeah, I get that with being around Arabs. My accent, my Arabic accent.
Is just not great.
They say I sound like a New Yorker speaking Arabic.
Is that what they say? Yeah, that's what they. Oh yeah, we were called all the things. We're called Barbie because we speak with basically a white people accent, and we're just we were called all of the things. Oh, we just want to be involved and included. Man, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
We're doing the best we can with what we have. As we said, agree. Our parents did too. I think it's a hard hurdle, and I don't think you ever fully get over it.
No, it's definitely something that definitely something I carry with me. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it also shaped me. And like I said, like when I got here, like I really don't give a shit. Like you don't want to know who I am.
You will know.
You will know.
You
will know, and I will make sure that you know. And I'm not afraid.
I love it.
I love it. Gen Zers have empowered me.
I'm telling you, right? Our kids have come back and made us feel like we're badass. I said that to my son the other day. I was like, "Oh, it's giving and he was like, "It's giving."
It's giving.
Did you just say it's giving? I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "No, mommy, no." I was like, "Wow."
So we're not allowed to use the okay.
Guess not. I guess we're past that stage. I thought we were kind of in that age group that Anyway, no, let me
No,
not even say it. Let me
no,
not, because
no.
I'm aging myself by even saying that. But yeah,
So
yeah, no, it was confronting to hear.
don't do it.
Yeah, but I think that's probably a really well-rounded conversation. But
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys will find that interesting or have anything similar to add or comment on that you've experienced. Definitely
Share
feel
your
free.
stories in the comments.
Yeah,
Your
or
own.
in a DM, and we're happy to sort of discuss if there's questions that arise from what you hear. We're happy to address those as well on future episodes and just try and engage more with you guys about what might be interesting or poignant or stand out. So
Yeah. So tune in
tune in.
to next week. We'll
To
be
next
here
week.
again next week. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that before you leave us.
Before you leave us, don't leave us.
Don't
Just
leave
subscribe. But yeah, definitely. Thank you for those who have subscribed more recently, as well as the older subscribers. Thank you guys. That support is pretty amazing to hear, and the new followers as well on the IG page. It's really encouraging to get the feedback. We are recording indoors because there was feedback.
That the
From-
sound was
Yeah, and the constant breaks for for chainsaws and
vacuuming.
and people doing whatever they do in the middle of the day was really a distraction. So we've taken your comments to consideration. So hopefully this is a little bit better. So thank you for that feedback, Kyle. And I guess that's it from us. And we'll see y'all next week.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.